The Minnesota Vikings are 2-0. Thank you to the courtesy of the one and only.
Up high, down hard, and he drops the sledgehammer. No regard for human life.
Kevin Harlan on the call. Welcome back to Minnesota. In the Minnesota Vikings 4.5 point underdog upset over the San Francisco 49ers, the Minnesota Vikings win 23-17. On Friday, you might have heard my prediction that said 49ers 24, Vikings 17. I misspoke. I mispronounced. I obviously had Vikings 24-17, but it was one of those last-second touchdown kind of things where they didn't feel like they had to kick the extra point. So that's how I got to the prediction that I had. But Jacob is here to break it all down. We both predicted this outcome through the first two games of the season. So we're happy to be here with you.
There's no shame in predicting that the Vikings were going to go 0-2. Let's be fair here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a reason that they were projected for what was it, 6.5 wins?
6.5 wins, yeah.
You know, in the schedule. I mean, there's a plethora of reasons and valid reasons that the Vikings could have, would have, should have been 0-2, but here we are, 2-0. Super Bowl homeboy?
Hey, right now, the Detroit Lions are 1-1. The Green Bay Packers are 1-1. And the Chicago Bears play, I think, on Sunday Night Football.
I think
versus
so.
a good opponent in the Houston Texans.
Oh, that's who it is. Yeah, that's right. Falcons are tomorrow night, aren't they?
Are they tomorrow night?
They must
Well, that'll be interesting. After Kirk Cousins' first game.
I've heard Cousins is good in primetime.
Yeah, I wonder what his record is.
But no, I mean, I don't know. The running game for the Vikings has looked, night and day different than last year.
Mm-hmm.
Madison was not the answer last year. Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones, it's a good little 50-50 split. Today it was a little bit more on the Chandler side of things. He looked explosive. Passing game, Darnold is looking like a competent, quarterback. He's looking like that top. What I always forget. He wasn't first overall, wasn't he? Was he like third or something?
Like I used third overall pick.
He was third overall. He's looking like a third overall pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, honestly, is probably as good as offense has been. The defense is probably the biggest thing that has been a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at, before we got Gilmore, we had nobody, it felt like, at cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
And they have proven, now, again, last week versus Daniel Jones, you could throw it out a little bit and say, well, it's Daniel Jones. It's a fair complaint.
Mm-hmm.
But Brock Purdy and the NFC champion 49ers.
Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Greg Kittle.
Mm-hmm. And for the most part, they held him in check. Ayuk, I didn't see the final stats, but he did not finish with much. Samuel had a decent game just because of how many targets he had. Kittle had the touchdown. But
Brandon Ayuk had 4 catches, 43 yards. Greg Kittle, 7 catches, 76 yards. Deebo Samuel Sr., 8 catches, 110 yards.
So yeah, Deebo was more, but all of his were short too, right? It's the kind of catches you're gonna let quote unquote Deebo have, right? It's those little slants and bubbles and things like that where he's inevitably going to get some yards. We gotta stop him from having the explosive play. He had a few big plays, obviously, but comparative to how it could have gone, right? So the defense was great. Pressure was great. I think we had 5 sacks, 4 alone in the third quarter. You could tell Purdy was always just kind of on his tippy toes, nervous, moving around the pocket, not comfortable. So you really, they were playing way above what anyone kind of would have been able to predict. Maybe the special sauce for the Vikings is that backup type quarterback that we don't expect to be a guy, because this is very Case Keenum-y feeling right now.
It is very Case Keenum-y feeling. Sam Darnold stat line 17 for 26, 268 yards, average of 10.5 per throw, 2 touchdowns, 1 killer interception.
Yeah, that
at the end of the first half. The Vikings could have been up 17-0. There's a couple of crucial turnovers the Minnesota Vikings had in this game. They're driving down the field, could have gone up 17-0. Sam Darnold throws a pick to Fred Warner. Aaron Jones screen pass.
That's the bad one.
Play right after Justin Jefferson goes down. Has a chance to seal the deal. Vikings can go up 20. Fumbles the ball at the 2-yard line. Even though they completely almost choked this game away by their own fault, by letting go of the football at the 2-yard line, by giving up a field goal at the very least, by throwing a pick to Fred Warner, the Minnesota Vikings still came out on top 23-17 over a team that was favored to win and over a team that a lot of people have as the team to come out of the NFC. Why wouldn't you? So very exciting game, very exciting win for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, it was very entertaining as well. You kind of, again, jaded Vikings fans kept waiting for like the 49ers all of a sudden to go bang, 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 right?
Me too. I thought we were going to lose 21-20 at one point.
I know we talked about that a little bit. We were texting. I mean, the Aaron Jones fumble.
Which is realistic. You think about it. It's not totally unrealistic. No. Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson, Nick Muse, Johnny Munn. Like, that's who Sam Darnold was throwing the ball to on that final possession the Minnesota Vikings had offensively when they kicked the field goal.
Yeah,
I mean,
no. They had that 3rd and 8. They had that, or 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, wherever it was.
They had a couple third downs,
Brandon
I think.
Powell that converted the first down, and
Jalen Naylor had the deep one to Naylor was insane.
That was dirty. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was absolutely amazing. So
no, Darnold has been obviously everything we could have wanted and more so far. And I mean, this is as much, none of us get to be at camp every day and practice every day and see how things are going. This is showing why, the tea leaves, the insiders, the people around the team were saying, well, I wouldn't be surprised if J.J. McCarthy ends up having to sit the whole year based on how Darnold looks, and most of the fan base was kind of like, ugh.
Right, we don't want that. We don't want that report.
Like, JJ's got to look better. We know who Darnold is. We know how this is going to go. But, obviously, the people around the team liked what they saw. They understood, hey, this is a good year for Darnold. It's okay if JJ sits. Obviously, injury side now, of course. But this is the Darnold they were talking about in camp, and it's showing to be, pretty legit. So
there's a reason why Sam Darnold gets way more chances than a typical quarterback that fails in multiple stops. It's because he's clearly got the talent. There's a reason why the Panthers and the 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings gave him chance after chance after chance, even when quarterbacks rarely get second chances.
I'd say a lot of them only get one chance,
Right, if they're really, really, really bad. This is his fourth chance to be a successful NFL quarterback. And so far through 2 games, he's done exactly what the Minnesota Vikings have asked him to do. His first interception with the Giants, his arm got hit. We're up by 20, didn't matter. This interception, that one hurt a little bit. That one bit because you go up from being 13-0, 17-0 to 10-7 at halftime, and the Minnesota Vikings were fortunate. I mean, we won the game. But there was lots of plays where it's like 49ers, 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. We stopped them. They score a touchdown there, and the game is completely different, most likely. Because then the very next play, or a few plays later, Sam Darnold threw a 98-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. So it's like the margin of error in these games is so slim, and then we're all celebrating and excited about this Minnesota Vikings victory, as we should be. But one play breaks this way and another play breaks that way, and the Minnesota Vikings probably lost this game.
Yeah, but that's also just kind of sports, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes. Like, I said, I'll say that a lot, right? When I'm coaching my various sports, I'd rather learn about our mistakes and fix our mistakes for the next game while still winning, which is what the Vikings are doing right now, right? They're not playing flawlessly, but they are 2-0 with a lot of mistakes, and again, the goal of being, let's eliminate some of those mistakes, and suddenly these close games might not be so close. I mean, I guess the first game wasn't close, obviously, but, we can clean it up even more. So, so I'd much rather learn in a win than have to learn in a loss. So
Right. And you mentioned it a little bit. And my concern for the Minnesota Vikings defense as they go forward, they've looked so good so early. And I said this before the season started, I think, or after week 1 maybe. But last year, the Minnesota Vikings defense, all they could do is blitz on every single play, force the ball out of the quarterback's hands early because the Vikings cornerbacks couldn't cover anybody. So that was the only deception, only plan, only thing that they could do to try to stop anybody offensively. End of the year, teams catch on, they understand the formula, and the Minnesota Vikings defense pretty much stank. Jared Goff looked like a Hall of Famer. We made the Bengals backup quarterback look unbelievable. But this year, there isn't one formula on the Minnesota Vikings defense. You see them blitz guys. You see them bring guys back. You see some blitz, some bring back. You see an unpredictable defense from Brian Flores because of the players that they were able to bring in this offseason so that they don't have to rely on one way to stop an opposing offense. And that's what we've seen through the first 2 weeks. Like you mentioned earlier, Brock Purdy looked uncomfortable. He threw for over 300 yards, but they're also down a lot. And a lot of that came on their last offensive possession where the Minnesota Vikings were just giving up chunk plays and playing prevent defense, which, it's kind of annoying. I hate prevent defense, but there's got to be some reason why coaches do it.
Well, yeah. When you're up 2 scores, when you're up 1 score, it's not good, right? That's a waste. But when you're up 2 scores with that little bit of time left, you just play, hey, as long as we don't give up an instant touchdown, if we give up 5, 10, 15 yards across the middle, they have no timeouts left, that shouldn't hurt you in the long run.
Right.
Now,
as long as you recover the onside kick.
Game, that's totally different. Because we've seen the Vikings do that. Like, oh, you're up 7 with a minute left, let's prevent. Like, no, you still, that's enough time to tie the game with a touchdown. But anyway.
Right.
Go
ahead. You go. You.
I was going to add to your point of simply saying, I feel like so far anyway, it's been the variety of defenders that have been able to create pressure that has been key. We don't have to bring 6. We're bringing 5, 4 or 5 most of the time. But we saw Blake Cashman get in there. We saw Patrick Jones get in there
4 sacks already.
Yeah, 4 sacks already. Van Ginkel's getting into the backfield, making some stuff happen. Still, am I dumb, or have I not even heard Jonathan Grenard's name yet?
He hasn't been making that big of an impact so far.
And honest, he's our best pass rusher. So I wasn't paying attention to
2 solo tackles. Apparently, had 1 sack in this game.
I totally missed it. But there you go. So at least he made a sack. But yeah. So the point of that just being the variety of defenders that we have. Last year it kind of felt like Danielle Hunter or bust. And this year it feels a lot more like, hey, we can have different guys that are contributing to the pass rush and actually getting home versus just having to rely on one guy to create pressure. Or blitzing so many that we're risking a lot. Right.
One of the biggest stories coming out of this game, whether the Vikings won or lost, here's Justin Jefferson on his injury. Quote, not overly concerned, just a little thigh bruise, contusion, whatever you want to call it. Something that happens. John Krasinski says, Justin Jefferson added that it's not serious, and he's looking to be ready by next week.
Perfect. So, yeah, just like a Charlie horse race stinger right in the leg. Enough.
Yeah, can you imagine getting one of those from a middle linebacker in the NFL?
It's got to be tough. I bet it's one of those things where, because we were up, I won't say comfortably, but I bet if it was like the playoff game, last game of the season thing, he probably would have been able to run out there. If that's all it was, he probably would have been able to finish the game if he had wanted to. But would be my guess if it's just like a bruise, but maybe not.
So unserious injury for Justin Jefferson. That is good news, great news for the Minnesota Vikings. I just want to make this one last point, and we can make a few more points and then call it good. But on that last possession again, when Darnold was throwing to third, fourth, and fifth string wide receivers, Vikings killed off 6:46 of the clock on that possession, and the 49ers needed 2 scores with no timeouts with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. I mean, I've had doubts about Sam Darnold in these crucial moments because how many quarterbacks do you really trust in this situation? I trust Mahomes. I trust Josh Allen. But outside of that, I don't trust that many quarterbacks in a close game with just a few minutes left and you need to put a drive together. You look at Lamar Jackson in week 1. He had 2 wide receivers wide open against the Chiefs, missed both of them. And the guy stepped out for the last one. That was the third one. The guy stepped out because of his big toe. So he was close. But that shouldn't have even been an opportunity. But he missed.
Even Lamar today, I don't know if you saw the end of it.
I did.
Where they needed a touchdown drive, they just needed a field goal to win, right? They had like two and a half minutes left or 3 minutes left, tie game. And it was sack, 2-yard pass, like 2-yard pass. And then they had to punt and Raiders win the game. So yeah, again, Lamar, who's an MVP, and he is an MVP, but to your point, there's not that many guys that are
He's a great
reliable.
Quarterback. Yeah. And it's not a shot at Lamar, but there's just not many guys in the league where it's like, I trust that quarterback down 2, up 4 to put this game away. Well, Sam Darnold just did it with 3rd, 4th, and 5th string wide receivers against a team that's most likely favored to be in the Super Bowl again. So I have just been bedazzled by Sam Darnold and his performances this year.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's the guy that, now, none of us believed it, but when out of training camp and out of every early practice, everything around the team was saying, hey, this guy is different. This guy has the talent. This guy has the composure. He's the captain of our team already. Like, they were saying all the things, and we didn't want to believe it, most of us, for 2 reasons, right? One, just because we've seen Sam Darnold in Carolina. We've seen him in New York. And it's hard to get those images out of your brain. And then 2, just because we have JJ, and it was like, just put J. Like, we all want JJ in. That's more fun. It's more exciting. We're probably going to stink anyway. Put him in, But again, this is the Darnold that everybody around the Vikings was saying, hey, this is a legitimate quarterback that should be starting in the NFL.
For sure. So, Minnesota Vikings 2-0 face the Houston Texans at home next week, and Texans looked beatable last week against the Colts. It's week 1. We'll see how they perform against
the Packers, right? Without
Chicago Bears.
Jordan Love, probably.
Yeah, man. I know I said 5-12.
Jets barely beat the Titans, so maybe favorable.
Hey, what the heck, man? 5-0 by the bye week?
We were talking about could we be the last team to win? But we weren't the only. Again, to stress, we were that was the common.
We're not the only ones.
Right.
We're just a part of the brigade that had the Minnesota Vikings win total at 6.5. Right. 5-12. Still just going still possible. Until they win 6 games, I will not surrender that opinion. Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, his injury could be more severe than he even thinks.
Yeah.
So here we go. Are we already at that point where the Minnesota Vikings should consider trading J.J. McCarthy and signing Sam Darnold to an extent? Are we there? Okay. Here's a question. In all seriousness, when does it get to that point? If the Minnesota, where's that point in the regular season?
If the Vikings win the division, right, and go 12-5.
What if they're 13-0? What if the Vikings are 13-0 under Sam Darnold? Not saying it's going to happen. It's very unlikely.
No,
but this is all hypothetical.
What record do the Vikings have to have, and how? If they win the division with Sam Darnold,
right?
And maybe you win a playoff game or something.
What if they won the Super Bowl?
Well, then you sign Darnold back. That's no matter what.
Yeah.
But where's that line though for them? Yeah, who knows? Well, maybe we'll end up being able to see.
Yeah.
But at some point,
then you bring J.J. McCarthy back and.
For one more year to sit while he's actually healthy and can practice for a year, and who knows? But
right.
Problem would be that if Darnold was that good, but somebody else would probably be looking to sign him, unless he really loved it here, and people love it here, right? We hear that all the time. Love Minnesota.
No, what a great state!
What a great
organization,
state, great city.
First class facilities.
Yeah. But if we truly, again, division winning team, which is still a long, long way to go, obviously. But you're right that Darnold's going to get paid by somebody, either us or somebody. There's plenty of teams out there that will be looking for somebody. Maybe the Panthers sing him, bring him back. I don't know. Probably
Right.
not, but
yeah. Anyways,
Falcons.
That's gonna do it for this. What's that?
So maybe the Falcons should sign him.
The Falcons sign our dirty leftovers. He's got to tear his Achilles first, and then the Falcons might be interested in him.
Another question: when does Kirk Cousins get benched too?
Honestly, I was listening to a show that I produced during the week, Good Morning Football, and they're looking at the Atlanta Falcons' schedule for the rest of the year. And just these next few weeks, and it's like, it might not be that far off. At Philly this week, Monday night. Tough.
That's tough.
Okay. Home versus Kansas City. Okay. Tough. Home versus New Orleans, who just put up 45 points on the Cowboys.
Super Bowl favorite, apparently. I did, of course, I did. I'm sure everyone did, right? I faced against Alvin Kamara in fantasy, so I think he scored 43 fantasy points. He had 4 or 5 touchdowns. I didn't remember.
So you think about that game, okay? All of these games aren't like, okay, you got the Titans or whatever, okay? Week 5 against Tampa Bay, who just beat Detroit on the road. And then their first game was like, okay, the game's over. It's week 6 at Carolina. And Carolina is a joke. Bryce Young is awful in his year 2. But you look at those games, and it's like, are they going to be the last team in the NFL to have a win?
That's Carolina.
Carolina. That's true.
But just remember, Adam Thielen went there to win a Super Bowl.
He went there to win a Super Bowl. That's right. We will never let him forget it. Oh my gosh. Craziness.
It's funny. I mean, Bryce Young, I didn't really think, I wasn't much of a believer anyway. I got a trade offer and I got Dynasty Fantasy League. It was Bryce Young for JJ McCarthy straight up. So a starting quarterback, healthy for a guy who's a rookie on IR and who knows what his career is going to end up being. I was like, nope.
Panthers scored 3 points this week.
I don't want anything to do with Bryce Young. He's awful.
And last week they scored 10. Bryce Young had 84 yards. When a team scores 3 points, typically the other team kind of sags off and you can rack up like 400 yards even though you barely score any points. And you just go for it on 4th down over and over again and you don't get it. He had 84 yards.
Yeah, that's tough. Less than 100 yards. Caleb Williams would kill for 84 yards, though. I remember. He had like 90 or something, I think.
He had 90 yards. Something like that. Their defense and special teams won them that game. Yeah. But things looking bright for the Minnesota Vikings.
Hey, you never know.
Let's
go
Super Bowl. Super Bowl.
10 QB.
Man. Wow. What a game.
Just like we all thought.
Thank you for your understanding and for joining the pod today.
Thanks for having me.